Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Maria. So it's Thursday, it's September 8th, and all eyes on Buckingham Palace and watching the Queen and saying prayers for the Queen. People are showing up with umbrellas. It's raining in front of Buckingham Palace. The news is that the family has been commissioned to come back to the palace and get in place because of concerns over Queen Elizabeth's health. I don't believe they would call the entire family unless we were at the end of the road with this queen, and that is kind of the protocol that they do with Operation London Bridge. Is they have to make sure all I could think of is a beehive or whatever. They have to make sure all of the royal bloodline is in the palace, including um, grandchildren. Um, and then each of the family members need to be kept separate for the preservance of the crown. So, like, you wouldn't have, I guess, Prince Charles and Camilla driving in a car with Prince William and Kate or Catherine, or vice versa, or like Prince Andrew or Prince Edward. Although it looks like Prince Edward arrived with his wife, Princess Sophie, and Prince Andrew. I'm watching it. So, I feel pretty assured that when I see Christiana Apoor in the mix and at the helm of reporting, you're going to get the news the right way. She's a very good reporter. They are showing some pictures of her that were her last pictures. She really did lose a lot of weight from her jubilee in June. It looks like she took off about 40 pounds from June to now. And her last official, if it is her last, which I believe it is, um, that's kind of obvious now, was to take Boris Johnson's reservation yesterday at Belmore and and receive a new prime minister who is a female. And she could have delegated that at 96 years old and frail and not feeling well. She could have just given that job to anybody. And yet she met with Boris Johnson and said bye bye. And she welcomed Liz Truss in. And I was thinking about the wonderful relationship she had with Margaret Thatcher. And I just think in her life, she always wanted probably to have that one female friend. And for her, it was her sister, Princess Margaret, and her mother. And they were really just a tight family. And um, I know a lot of people feel different things about the prince and the king and the queen and the monarchy in general and just get rid of it, blah, blah, blah. But in our lifetime, it's history. And so you don't see the changing of the guard like this um, unless something very tragic happens or you've lived long enough. So she's been ruling for 70 years. I'm 63 years. I don't remember. I'm 63 years old. I don't remember my lifetime without her being queen. And uh, I always just admired her. Of course, I admired Princess Diana. Um, but I always just felt sorry for all of them because they couldn't do normal stuff. And their lives were so structured. And, but I mean, I really, I don't know any other leader that has shown up and been there as well for 16 countries. Because I think there's London and then there's 15 other countries that she's queen of. So, but I think it's really important that Christiana uh, Ampor said a lot of people just don't understand that the queen doesn't make political decisions. So when things are going on or whatever, she can only sit there and go, huh? Like the financial situation they're in right now, that is going to fall on the prime minister. And the queen can only do so much. She's got a lot she can do within her palace and all, but she's still being run by the firm. So, um, but she has done a lot for the world. So good. And um, kind of a busy day for news. So I'm going to stay tuned to the news and hopefully get another rectangle. It's starting to look like it could be a square. I kept going. I got a new color I'm working on. Just making one triangle after another. Um, Making a bunch of shawls and getting that done. And carrying on with the day, watching the news. And my prayers are with the royal family. And oh, please don't come to my channel if you believe the Queen is the Illuminate and that Hillary Clinton and the Queen have killed everyone. Please don't. Not today. Don't. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'll delete you. I just saw the cutest car drive out of Buckingham Palace. It's a little like, you know how they have those Mary Kay pink cars? This is not a pink. It's more like a pearlescent mauve. And it was a little tiny, tiny car. I'm really a royal watcher. Um, when at the last wedding, when Meghan and Harry got married, I was up first thing in the morning with my teacup and my hat on, waiting for their wedding. So I am a royal watcher. I love the history of the monarchy. I used to love a TV show that was on called The Tudors, and um, anything royal, I'm reading it and I'm watching it. So um, I mean, everybody knows this day is coming, but you don't. I can't imagine being born into this and knowing when your parent dies, you're just waiting for your parent to die, and then it's a really tough existence this family lives. I'm not saying they don't benefit from it and get a lot of perks, but they really live a difficult life, and I do have respect for them for preserving the crown, and so that's what I'm doing today. And also a kind of a tribute to CNN's chief correspondent, head chief news anchor, Bernie Shaw, passed away also. That's breaking news. And he was 82 and he died of pneumonia. And they're being very clear, the family, to say it wasn't COVID related. So he had pneumonia and he died. I I always loved Bernie Shaw. I remember all of his reports from live from Baghdad. He was one of the first anchors, really headed up everything, and he was really great. Um, I remember him doing interviews with Walter Cronkite when Walter Cronkite was still around. Um, so yeah, people, I think people that are our age really grew up with, who are like the dinosaurs, are leaving this plane and transitioning, and I think it just take a minute to think about it. I don't know what the heck is going on in Memphis. Violent shootings, a billionaire heiress kidnapped on a familiar route. Okay, so what I will say about Eliza Fitzgerald is I don't believe that this person they picked up just was laying in wait for her to just grab her. I just don't believe that. All of his felonies were credit card theft, armed robbery, stealing cash, maxing out credit cards. I believe he would have done something for money. I think somebody paid him to kidnap her. Yeah. So there's that. What else is going on? Yeah. So one of the things that the queen did was she could have delegated that job um of taking Boris Johnson's resignation, but she didn't. I think any minute now you'll probably hear news that the queen has died. It's 12:18. I don't think she's still alive. I think they would have moved her to the hospital if there was anything they could have done for her. So she's probably in a state of there's nothing they can do for her, and they have to get everyone in the palace before they can announce it first to the BBC, then to all the countries that um, she is queen of officially, and then to the rest of the world. So there's like a real protocol they follow. There would be 12 days of mourning, 4 days of her lying in the castle, and people would be going there. Um, a lot. It's going to be a busy news week, and this is what it's going to be all weekend. And um, I was thinking about how she became queen, how her and her sister Margaret were just very happy in their family to be the spares living a normal kind of life, and how her uncle abdicated the throne because of the woman he was in love with was divorced, and he couldn't be king and be in love with her. And how her father didn't want to be king, but he followed his duty right up to his death. It was aggravating for him. And he would be the king that stuttered, the one that couldn't, really wasn't comfortable with speaking, and was never comfortable with being king, but he rose up and became excellent king, and then died young. And um, and she never wanted to be around people that smoked, so she had a real thing about her father smoked a lot and died of lung cancer, and uh, she became queen, and then her sister smoked a lot, and she didn't want that happening again, and so you could see why maybe she didn't want Charles to be falling in love with a woman that had been married or divorced. He was already prepped to be king, and a lot of people are like they really don't like the queen because they think, well, who would make their son marry somebody that he felt fondly of and had a love for, but he was madly in love with another woman? And that's the thing that's always interesting to me is Prince Charles was very honest with his parents and said, she's a suitable wife. She's a perfect wife, Princess Diana. But there is not the kind of love there that I need there to be, but I'm willing to do what I need to do. Um, and I think once Diana found out that, Camilla was his true love, she was just never going to be secure in that marriage. And it all just tumbled apart. But um, I always remember people having a hard time understanding why the queen didn't come out and address the people after Princess Diana um, tragically was killed. And there were so many people that said the queen did it. The queen ordered her dead. I'm like, the queen doesn't do that. And if any of the Illuminati, and I just wanted to say this, I'll probably be talking about this quite a bit out here because I do love the royal family. Um, there is an elite in the world. There's there's an elite everywhere. There's a firmware everywhere. Every job you go to, there's a shadow management. There is a higher up. There's somebody you are accountable to. I think we forget that when we hear people talking about deep state and shadow gov and firm. Um, that's everywhere. That's everywhere. Where I live, there's a community manager who's also the property manager. Then there's a regional manager. Then there's a district manager. Then there's an executive. Then there's an elite. Then there's the owners. Then there's more owners. There's always somebody above somebody. So when people get into this, the reptilian thing about the queen and the royal family and the Illuminati and the MK Ultra, I think it gets mixed in with people in Hollywood that are found dead. I'll never forget how many people thought the Queen killed Prince or Hillary Clinton killed Prince. The Queen killed Chris Cornell. The Queen or Hillary killed Chris Cornell. The Queen or Hillary killed Chester Bennington. The Queen or Hillary killed just everybody. They didn't. So please don't come here with that hot mess. I don't want to hear it. And so that's what I'm doing today. I'm just doing that. So first thing this morning, I watched one of my favorite podcast YouTubes, which is Mayim Balik. I know I'm saying her name wrong, probably. I'm sorry. And she had a guest a while back, but I just caught up to it. Another podcast that I always watch, which is Andrew Huberman, Huberman Labs. And I'm going to link to it because it's got excellent information about EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And even though it's a long podcast, it's entertaining, and you learn a lot about regulating stress, what the different hormones do in your body, the different chains of the autonomic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system, and how they run parallel, like on the side of your spinal cord. And so, and how they affect adrenaline and cortisol and epinephrine. And so when and what factors into carrying around bad stress, good stress, and our body reacting to past trauma, and what EMDR is really good for and what it really doesn't work for. And what I really gleaned from this conversation, which I was so glad to hear, is that EMDR, which was developed by Francis Shapiro in the 1980s, really was developed by accident. And I remember reading her book about this years ago because my therapist tried the EMDR when he was so excited. It was like 1989 going into 90, and he came back and he said, I just came back from a conference. I learned EMDR, I'll explain it, and I think it could work for you for the more serious things that you keep reacting to, like the really big phobic fears that involve trauma. Not every single trauma. If you take a person with DID or post-traumatic stress disorder, if they had complex post-traumatic stress, many traumas, EMDR usually doesn't work because it's then teaching them to disassociate. Is what it's doing. So you would never want to use it repeatedly for a bunch of traumas. And I always wondered about that because that's one thing. My doctor tried to use it on me, and right away I could see I didn't like where I was going, and it gave me a headache, and it felt very much like when I disassociated. And I was like, no, I don't like that because I just the movement of the eyes back and forth. And so how she developed this was she was seeing clients in a little like an office that was kind of confined, and she had just seen a client and she had other stuff on her mind, and she felt like she really didn't do that client justice, and she felt like she just needed fresh air, and there was a park nearby, and it was getting near autumn, and she just really felt overwhelmed. She personally felt overwhelmed from her client, how she left things, and what was going on in her own life. And she started walking, and she was really paying attention to her stride, her breathing, and her footsteps, the direction she was going. So she was kind of just looking straight ahead, not overthinking, just trying to clear her mind. And her eye caught, uh, the attention of her eye was caught by a leaf that hit the ground and began skipping. And as she was walking, it would skip back. And you know how leaves do this in the fall. They rustle up, come down, rustle up. So she started walking, and without turning her head too much, determined walking, following that leaf where it was skipping back and forth just with her eyes. As she did this, she noticed that her body calmed down, that her breathing stabilized, her heart stabilized, and her mind felt more clear. She could look back at that situation in the office and her own situation, and she had more clarity. She had more answers of how to move forward, and how it really got confusing for her, um, or what overwhelmed her. So she started doing research on eye movement, and that's as much as I remember with reading her book. There was a lot of trials she did and research, but it does work. But it's just like hypnotherapy. It's just like any of the tools in our tool belt. You don't want to overuse them, because what it actually does is it teaches you to go to the trauma, then disassociate from it, then go to the trauma, then disassociate from it. So if a person has what used to be called multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder now, you wouldn't want them constantly disassociating. If they had um, what used to be called DDNOS, dissociative uh, disorder not otherwise specified, or um, OS, other specified OSDD, or other specified dissociative disorder, they have a dissociative disorder, so they disassociate a lot, beyond the normal disassociating things. So, like exercising, eating, um, watching a movie, um, that kind of stuff, driving in a car, a familiar route. So beyond the normal disassociating things. So what I found really interesting was that Mayim actually went there. She asked the question, now about EMDR, can it be used, kind of paraphrase, can it be used too much or for the wrong purpose? And Andrew was like, I'm so glad you asked that, Andrew Huberman. Yes, it can be misused. It can be overused. And there are populations you don't want to use it with. So same as um, hypnotism, same thing. It can be overused and it can be manipulated. A clinician or therapist can know a little bit about a memory that you're being triggered with, or I'm being triggered with, and can actually make a whole landscape that's um, not frightening to the person, but bring that in, and then it becomes more clear, and then that memory becomes more concrete, but all the details of that memory are not um, true. So I won't touch on it any more than that. Go watch what I'm going to link to, Regulating Stress. And they just banter up. I love when neuroscientists get together and just start bantering, because um, they're not loyal to anyone. They're not trying to prove or disprove anything. They're just going by the science. And science says you can use the EMDR to say, let's go into that room you were abused in, or that terrible trauma happened, and this was in the corner, and this person was over here, and blah, blah, blah. And now let's go to the thing that hurt you the most, and or whatever, right? Or maybe it was a car accident. Okay, we're going to set up the road. Keep moving your eyes back and forth. We're going to set up the road. It's raining. green car goes by, a truck is coming around the corner, a lady's coming out of her driveway to wave, a dog comes across the street, you swerve to miss the dog, you don't see the person with the rain jacket and the umbrella, and really, there's no dog, there's no, okay, so it can, to get a person to there going back and forth, disassociating back and forth, I mean, it can be entered into, so watch that. And two exercises that I'm going to try to do here real quick. Okay. Ooh, they are all in the same car. That's weird. Somebody took a picture of all of them together, really? Okay, so Prince Andrew and Sophie and Edward are all in the same car arriving. Bad. Okay, so what Andrew Huberman showed, and I don't know if I could do this right now, is I think I used to do this with a yoga class I took once. Um, but it's to clear your head and your mind and de-stress. You're gonna take a deep breath in through your nose, and I'm just gonna say when you get to about here, as far as you can go, you're going to then take another breath and then blow it all out through your mouth. So it's gonna look something like, I won't do the whole thing. It's gonna look something like you're gonna have two different, and you'll have kind of a nasally sound at first. Okay, so I'm gonna do that right now. Do that better, but I'm gonna wait because it really brings you up to your head and away from your body, which is a cool thing. So, and you could practice to take deeper breaths through your nose. It makes an awful sound eventually, and it can burn your nose. But if you have a sinus infection, it clears it. That's kind of a byproduct thing here. So that was better. So you can practice, and each time you do it, you will feel the back of your head. At least I do, and your ears pop a little bit, and it makes you feel a little taller and aware. It kind of snaps you out of the muddly murkiness you might be in. It's really cool. And then he shows how you can tell if a person is very hypnotizable. Well, one, if a person disassociates a lot, normally they're highly hypnotizable because they can self disassociate. So they're self hypnotizing. But if you weren't disassociating all the time, how can you tell if a person is highly hypnotizable but also highly suggestible? Okay. You're going to open your eyes, look straight ahead, and you're going to lift just your eyes up to the top. You're going to look up as far as you can. And whenever I do this, I get a headache, but lift your eyes up as far as you can, right? You don't put your head up like I'm doing right now. You just lift your eyes up. And then you try to close your eyelid, but not your eyeballs. So I'm going to try to do that, and I'll see if it works. Okay? I already know I'm highly hypnotizable, but I won't let anybody hypnotize me. All right, so also means I'm highly suggestible, but then I question everything. So here we go. So I'm going to try that again. Eyes up. This is going to look weird. You're going to see the whites of my eyes. I think I did it because I can feel it. It's like, it's a headache. Oh. I get a headache doing it. But your eyes go up, but your lids go down. So you look like your eyes are rolling back in your head. So I don't know if I did that, if you could see it, but it makes my eyes squint and it gives me a little bit of a headache. But if you could do that, you're highly hypnotizable. Okay, I'm going to go back to watching TV. I just wanted to share. It's a really good podcast. A little bit geeky, a little nerdy when they get to talking, but always good information from Mayim and um, Richard and Andrew Huberman. I love Huberman Labs, and so I thought I'd share some of my favorite podcasts when I get up early like that. Something's going on. I start getting all my favorite podcasts and YouTubers in and catch up. And I just want to say, I guess you could say God save the Queen when people are looking to preserve her life or you just want protection on the Queen. So I'm just praying that the family is comforted and that the Queen um, transitions well. I think she probably has passed already, um, but they had to get the family there. Yeah. So, um, interesting times and sad times. An end of an era. Yeah. Beginning of a new one. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a nice day. Bye bye.